Again, the MOSIT has assured startups. Now, we're going to be shifting focus to another important developing story. A United States Reaper drone and two Russian Su-27 aircraft were flying in international waters over the Black Sea when, according to the United States military, one of the Russian jets flew in front of and dumped fuel on the unmanned drone. Now, the aircraft then reportedly hit the propeller of the drone, prompting U.S. forces to bring down the MQ-9 drone down in international waters, that is the Black Sea, remember. Now, the collision took place shortly after 7 a.m. Central European time on Tuesday, which is roughly 11:30 a.m. India time. Now, the incident marks the first time that Russian and U.S. military aircraft have come into direct physical contact since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine just over a year ago, and is likely to increase tensions between the two nations.
What we saw, again, were fighter aircraft dumping fuel in front of this UAV and then getting so close to the aircraft that it actually damaged the propeller on the MQ-9. We assess that it likely caused some damage to the Russian aircraft as well. The Russian aircraft did land. I'm not going to go into where they landed. But again, it's just demonstrative of very unprofessional, unsafe airmanship on the part of these pilots. Because of the damage, we were in a position to have to essentially crash it into the Black Sea. To my knowledge, at this point in time, the Russians have not recovered that aircraft.
About this aerial unmanned vehicle, this drone can carry 1,700 kilos of explosives. This drone can carry a few bombs. You see that what will be reaction of United States if you see such Russian drone very close, for example, to San Francisco or New York? What will be reaction of United States? For me, it's clear. We don't want any confrontation between the United States and Russian Federation. We are in favor of pragmatic relations for the interest of the people of the United States and Russian Federation.
The President was briefed by the National Security Advisor about this incident earlier this morning. It is not uncommon, Amr, for there to be intercepts by Russian aircraft of U.S. aircraft over the Black Sea. So this is not an uncommon occurrence, and there have been even in just in recent weeks there have been other intercepts, but this one obviously is noteworthy because of how unsafe and unprofessional it was, indeed reckless that it was, and causing the downing of one of our aircraft. So it's unique in that regard.
We have engaged at high levels with our allies and partners in the first instance to brief them on this incident and to let them know what we know just about as soon as we were learning of the details. We are engaging directly with the Russians, again, at senior levels, to convey our strong objections to this unsafe, unprofessional intercept which caused the downing of the unmanned U.S. aircraft. As to the particulars, we are summoning the Russian ambassador to the department where we will convey this message. In Moscow, meanwhile, Ambassador Tracy has conveyed a strong message to the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
When you use weapon systems like the Reaper, you've got something that is really known for not only its weapons capability, but also as an intelligence collection platform, which is what it was most likely doing, because what it does is it takes signals intelligence and imagery intelligence, depending on the package that it has on board, and it correlates that data and sends it back where it can be processed by a command center. So when you look at the area that we've got around here, there's a lot going on, and the tensions, of course, given the fact that you've got systems going up in this area, you've got fighting all along here, and in the bigger map you have all of these different areas right in here. So anything that could happen here could clearly spill over into other areas. We use this area because it's international waters, and we take a look at everything that is going on in the southern part of Ukraine. And one of the key things is right here at the port of Odessa, we've got the grain shipments that are going through this area. And we want to make sure that the Russians aren't interfering with the grain shipments that are keeping Ukraine alive, basically. So that's one big thing. The other thing that we want to make sure is that nobody is sending arms into the Russian-controlled areas right here. And that becomes an important part as well. Plus, we also want to see what the Russians are doing in this part, Crimea, which they annexed back in 2014. So all of the things that are going on here with this, if it once it goes down, the intelligence collection stops, and then it becomes a situation where you're trying to get the pieces and parts that made up the Reaper and make sure that it doesn't fall into enemy hands. What you're looking at here is trying to pull it off, probably off of the floor of the Black Sea, which is pretty deep in some of these areas right off the Crimean coast.
U.S. surveillance drone was brought down by two Russian Sukhoi 27 jets. The U.S. says that the surveillance aircraft, an MQ-9 Reaper as it was called, a large aircraft with sophisticated systems on board. It has a 20-meter wingspan, really a very complex system of surveillance. This was brought down by the Russian jets as it was operating in international airspace and was operating, as the U.S. says, quite legitimately. This was not exactly shot down, but it was brought down by U.S. accounts. The two Russian aircraft dumped fuel over the drone, leading the aircraft to crash into the waters below over the Black Sea. This now is a very serious confrontation. It's a confrontation very directly now between systems from the U.S. and Russia. This is quite the first direct clash that we've had between the two.
We are crossing over to CNN News 18's Foreign Affairs correspondent Abhishek Jha to get more on this. Abhishek, how could we likely see this matter escalate between the two nations?
So far it looks like the situation is pretty much under control, because USA had acknowledged the fact that Russian planes were behind the drowning of US MQ-9 unmanned aerial surveillance aircraft. At the same time, they have said that this reckless and unprofessional move was being raised with the Russian authorities. Senior officials of USA will engage with the Russian side to know their side of the story. So there is no sudden or abrupt escalation that is being promoted from the USA side, but we know that the situation is very serious in nature because of the heightened tension over Black Sea. We have seen the last 1 year various major skirmishes happening in Black Sea. In one of them, one of the largest naval assets, Moscow of Russia, was drowned. We know the Black Sea is currently being used for grain export from Russia and Ukraine to the other parts of the world. So these are the times when the world will also not like to see any escalation of tension over Black Sea because of various geopolitical and food crisis region. And we'll have to see from here on what explanation or what is the stand of Russia on the whole issue and how to see it further.
Abhishek, a few follow-up questions for you. Now, when it comes to what Russia has already said, because we have the statement of Anatoly Antonov, who's a Russian ambassador to the United States. Now, he said, we prefer not to create a situation where we can face unintended clashes or unintended incidents between the Russian Federation and the United States. But when we also compare this to what the United States has said and their account of what happened, apparently what happened was intentional.
So that was very much on the expected line. What the Russian side has maintained, that incident that happened was unintended, and the Russians fighter planes just crashed or just brushed of the USA aircraft over the Black Sea. But the USA side has a different story, that they say that it was very unprofessional and reckless manner that Russian jets were operating, and they said that not only but the Russian jets tried to dump the fuel on the aircraft many times, and they flew past the US aircraft in front of it many times before ensuring that its tails are damaged and it is drowned. So this is the USA side's story on the whole issue, and while Russians have maintained that this was an unintended clash where the USA had to lose one of its surveillance aircraft, but will such incidents occur in future also, we can very well understand the fact that because of the heightened tension, there will be a struggle, there will be a clash between the two sides, Russian side and the NATO side led by USA, to have a dominance, to ensure that this area belongs to them, to have them more surveillance aircraft and fighters in that area. So it could be a dominance tactics between the two sides, in which it looks like Russians have superseded right now, and it was an unmanned aircraft from the USA side which was drowned by Russian Su-27.
Absolutely. Abhishek, do stay with us. We're also being joined by our guest, Mr. Pathakrit Payne, who is a security